Simple, crisp and clean are the characteristics of a standard American lager. But we're going to brew one with just a bit of a twist. Hi, I'm Martin Keane and I'm taking the Homebrew Challenge to brew 99 different beer styles, one per week. This is beer style number 2, American Lager. Now, the ingredients for this one are pretty straightforward. I am using 9 pounds of 2-row malt and mixing that with 1 pound of Vienna Malt. And because we want a little bit of little tiny bit of corniness to the beer, Flaked Corn going in as well. I'm going to put this into the mash tun, start the mash, and while that's going on, let's talk a little bit about the start of American Lager. Hi, we're at the Mod in Pittsburgh and I'm here with Thomas Vincent. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for doing this. Now, Thomas is a head brewer and also is an educator. He has taught class at Wake Tech for a number of years on brewing, and in fact I'm a graduate of his class. So,
and he survived.
I survived. It was a great class. We got to go to breweries all over the place. We brewed our own beer. Underground ESB was our beer, which is still proudly sat in my basement. So.
Great.
It was a good beer. So I wanted to ask you about this beer style, which is just American lager. What do you think is sort of the main characteristics of that sort of beer?
There's a whole lot of nothing, and it's very balanced about that. It intentionally stays away from any strong character, strong flavor bits. But the interesting thing is about it that when you think about it, the light lager, which is the Coors Light, the Bud Light, what have you, when you have those, the effervescence overwhelms the other characteristics of the beer. But with this, in comparison, you do actually oftentimes get the hop character coming out, or you get a little more graininess to it than you necessarily would out of that light lager in comparison. So there is flavor going on, but it's very subtle.
So for the commercial example, I've got Tough Folks from Trophy Brewing Company. That's a local Raleigh brewing company. So let's give it a try.
Sure. I do get a little bit of a hint of cooked corn, kind of in the finish there, in the nose. I'm not really getting much hop character myself, are you?
I can definitely smell the corn. I think that's an intended part of the style, right?
It's definitely
not considered too much of an off flavor as it would be like an IPA or something.
I think that accomplishes the goal.
Meets the style.
Yes, meets the style. It's not really hoppy in any sort of bitterness or any element.
Right.
And there is just that little bit of sweetness in there.
Thomas, thank you.
Cheers.
Wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows.
Now for each one of these brews I always consult my trusty BJCP guidelines and get to learn a little bit about the beer styles, and it describes here how the American lager is heavily influenced from German immigrants and Pilsner lager, and also how it sort of morphed into what it is today through the Prohibition. But it also sort of describes the beer in a little bit of a snooty way. Let me read this to you. It says, it became the dominant beer style for many decades, spawning many international rivals who would develop similarly bland products for mass market, supported by heavy advertising. But I'm going to see if we can brew an American lager that really isn't bland, but actually has just a little bit of pleasant sweetness and corny characteristics to it.
So I hit my knees.
For this beer I'm mashing in at 152 Fahrenheit. I'm trying to get to pre-boil gravity of 1034. Hops for this one, just bittering hops actually, 1.5 ounces of Hallertauer hops, and that's to get to an IBU of about 16.
Mercy of your love, I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul.
So let's talk yeast, because that's where the little twist is. Now, traditionally in this sort of beer, you would use something like White Lab's W8P840. Happen to have harvested a little bit of that from my last brew, which was American Light Lager. However, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use WLP001, that is California ale yeast. Yes, that's right, ale yeast. Now, before anybody freaks out, let me explain. Firstly, technically, the BJCP style guidelines don't actually say you have to use a lager yeast, even though it's called a lager. Now, I take the point. It does say lager in the title, but there you go. Secondly, I've read in a lot of places that actually, to get that clean and crisp taste that you want out of this beer, it is actually sometimes preferable to use a very clean finishing WLP001. So, I've made a starter, hold on. Here's my starter. So this is the WLP001. I'm going to pitch this and ferment initially at 68 Fahrenheit. Then when fermentation is kind of nearly done, I'll bump it up to 72. All right, let's add it in. I'm here with my dad to try American Lager. Now, Dad, I know this is not your favourite beer style,
but I've had my fair share of tasteless Aussie beers, so I can probably give this, you know, a reasonable review, I think.
All right, we'll see if we can beat tasteless Aussie beers. So first of all, colour, pretty light straw colour, right? Not much there.
Yellow, which is not really what I think of as beer, but it's
not a good start. Okay. Right, yellow, that's not good. It's not dark enough. Okay, right, and then aroma. What do you think about aroma?
Reasonably nice, but not a huge aroma, I don't think.
So about 4.5% in alcohol. So let's try the taste.
Actually, that's more flavour than a lot of Aussie beers, and I think that's a nice, refreshing drink on a hot day. We've just come back from a walk in the hot and humid Kerry evening, and that's a nice, refreshing drink at the end of the day, I think. Wouldn't want too many, one would be enough, but one is very nice.
It's, yeah, so this is very much more than Budweiser. It's kind of known as a lawnmower beer. The idea being that you cut the grass and then come in and you're thirsty. And
yeah, I could see that, and that would go down in one or two sips to get that down, I think, after mowing, especially mowing your lawn.
Well, cheers to a lawnmower beer.
Cheers.
And for beating Australia.